10 spine-chilling true stories revealed, terrifying tales from 2024 that unmask sinister secrets. Lisa could feel the chill in the air as she locked the door behind her. Although the sun set behind the tidy brick homes of Springfield, Ohio, it seemed darkness had crept into her darling suburb, a place where whispers carried weight and shadows morphed into dread. Somehow, the quiet neighborhood that had always felt safe now held an undercurrent of terror. That evening, the air hummed with apprehension. She had grown used to dull shifts as a nurse, doing her best to support her 2 young children, but horrific rumors danced on the lips of her neighbors. Children's laughter echoed faintly through the stillness, but it hardly resembled happiness. Rather, it felt like an echo of a forgotten joy. Lisa brushed off her unease. She kept telling herself she was being paranoid. Until she stepped onto her porch. Symbols, strange, sinister symbols, had been carved into the wood. What could they mean? Her heart raced. She instinctively glanced over her shoulder, half expecting to see someone lurking there, eyes hungry for fear. The children, age 8 and 6, spoke of a tall figure with glowing eyes watching them from just beyond the window, terror gripping their small voices. "It's just your imagination," Lisa would tell them, but with each passing night, dread knotted in her stomach. Things became stranger still when Mr. Thompson, a retired police officer and once friendly neighbor, began to watch the street like a hawk. He peered through his blinds at odd hours, and Lisa could never shake the feeling he was waiting for something, or someone. Just a week ago, he had been a comforting presence, always quick to lend a hand. Now, he wore a mask of paranoia that mirrored Lisa's own fears. As she discussed these worries with other mothers at the school, rumors bloomed like weeds. Families had vanished, swallowed whole by the night, dismissed by authorities as victims of coincidence. Lisa felt her heart sink deeper with each tale. The feeling of safety became a tether around her neck. "Lisa, call the police about those symbols," a neighbor suggested. Hands trembling, she dialed the number, pouring out her fears to an officer who sighed before dismissing her as once more as delusional. "You're just imagining things. Being a single mom can mess with your mind," he said. Hurt pierced through Lisa's heart. Didn't he understand? "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." The air stilled, and shadows twisted around her like vines. Lisa delved into the history of Springfield, uncovering faded articles about strange rituals hidden under the facade of this quintessential American suburb. A predator wasn't lurking outside, but possibly within the very fabric of her once trusted community. She felt the weight of isolation surround her, and each creak brought echoes of a long-forgotten paranoia. Then came another knock, soft but insistent. Her children peered over her shoulder, frantic whispers pleading at her to open the door. "It's Mr. Thompson." They stammered, terrified yet strangely eager for the safety of companionship. The tension coiled around her like a snake, her breath catching. What awaited her outside? Was it truly a friendly visit, or had the safety of her home been an illusion all along? With her heart pounding, she gripped the doorknob, teetering on the brink between sanctuary and an encroaching nightmare. The doorknob felt icy, like the breath of something far more sinister than Mr. Thompson standing on her porch. Lisa hesitated, caught between dread and obligation. The children whimpered behind her, their soft voices laced with uncertainty. "Mommy, please," they urged, eyes darting to the shadows beyond the porch light. Taking a deep breath, she turned the knob and opened the door a crack, just enough to see the figure before her. Mr. Thompson stood there, an uneasy smile flickering on his lips. His eyes were wide, darting as if they had seen something that made this once trusted neighbor seem unrecognizable. "Lisa, I need to talk to you," he said, his voice rasping like dry leaves. "About what?" She managed to ask, trying to calm the storm brewing inside her. "About the carvings, and the children," he said, glancing behind him as if expecting someone to emerge from the darkened street. "I've seen things, Lisa. Things you wouldn't believe." Her heart raced, the shadows of her home encasing her with unseen hands. "What do you mean?" He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "They're not just symbols. They're warnings. We're in danger." Before she could respond, something rustled in the bushes across the street, a low growl, barely audible, but unmistakable. Her instincts flared. Was whatever the kids spoke of finally making its presence known? Lisa felt her heart plunge, tightening in her chest. Mr. Thompson's eyes followed her gaze, and for a moment, they both stood frozen, paralyzed by the creeping unease. "Get your kids inside, Lisa. Now!" He barked suddenly, his demeanor shifting sharply, urgency rising above the fear. Without thinking, she yanked the door open wider, her voice shaking as she called to her children, "Come here. Quick!" They scrambled past her, panic clawing at her throat. Mr. Thompson stepped inside, glancing over his shoulder as if the dark were taking shape, whispering to him secrets too horrifying to comprehend. Lisa slammed the door shut and locked it, racing to the windows, peering through the curtains, her breaths coming in short gasps. The street lay deserted, the moon half hidden behind thick clouds. But as she strained her eyes to the darkness, she swore she saw movement, a figure lurking in the shadows, tall and slender, its eyes two burning embers staring right at her. Before she could fully absorb the sight, it melted into the night, leaving only the echo of her pounding heartbeat in her ears. "What is happening?" Her youngest child whimpered, clutching her leg, glancing at Mr. Thompson as if he was an alien. He looked equally lost and terrified, shaking his head as if trying to shake off dread. I think people are doing terrible things here. We have to be careful. Remember those families?" He began, his voice trembling. "The symbols, they're signs of something very wrong. We may not be safe, Lisa." Panic rose within her like bile. Could her neighbors truly be so sinister? She wasn't ready to face that reality. Suddenly, the lights flickered, casting distorted shadows across the walls. The children gasped, their fear palpable. She reached for the nearest light switch, but nothing happened. "Stay quiet," Mr. Thompson hissed, his eyes wild with urgency. "We need to stay out of sight." Just then, a loud crash echoed from the backyard, something heavy slamming against the fence. Fear sliced through her, freezing her blood. Her mind raced with countless desperate thoughts. What should she do next? What had Mr. Thompson seen that wasn't just in his head? The feeling of safety shattered. But something worse lingered, something lurking. The dreadful thought gnawed at her: what if the threat was not just outside but hidden in the shadows inside? The children huddled close, wide-eyed, as she fought against the looming darkness that encroached like a predator waiting for its moment. Then it struck her. There was a door leading to the basement, an old hatch they rarely used. Julie, her eldest, had whispered tales of things living in the dark down there too. Lisa felt bile rise again. Was it time to confront what lay beneath? The enormous weight of the unknown settled heavily on her shoulders. "We need to find out where that noise came from," she whispered, her voice steadying. "It's not just us anymore." Just as she turned to lead the way, a dreadful scratching sound echoed from behind, a sound that should not belong in a home. As breath caught in her throat, a chilling realization seized her: they were no longer alone. The question loomed ominously in her mind: would they survive whatever it was wanting to find them? The scratching intensified, claws raking against the wood, sending splinters into the air like tiny daggers. Lisa's heart raced. She risked a glance back at Mr. Thompson, whose face had gone pale, then back at her children. Their eyes were wide, shimmering with tears that caught the dim light like little lanterns of fear. "Shoo," she whispered, raising her finger to her lips. The air thickened, heavy with unspoken dread. Whatever was in the shadows beyond them was close, too close. "Mommy," Julie's voice trembled, breaking the silence, "what is that?" "I don't know." The truth was a knife twisted in her gut. The words felt like a vow, she had to find out. "Stay right here," she commanded, her voice a firmer grip than her shaking hands could muster. She turned toward the basement door, the old wooden hatch that hadn't been touched in years. It was a gateway she had ignored, like the secrets whispered in the cold corners of her memory. The scratching ceased, leaving an eerie stillness permeating the air, as if whatever was out there had paused to listen. "Wait here," she repeated, more to bolster her own confidence than to reassure her children. Spinning on her heel, she reached for the basement door. Her fingers trembled as they brushed over the handle, testing it for any signs of resistance. The cold metal bit into her skin, triggering a visceral memory that tugged at her mind. It wasn't just fear, it was a warning. As she pulled the door open, a wave of musty air gusted forth, wrapping around her like icy fingers. She hesitated at the threshold, heart pounding in sync with the thoughts racing through her mind. Whatever lay down there, it had been waiting. Waiting for her. Lisa took a slow step down the creaking wooden stairs, the dim light from her phone barely trickling into the darkness. Each step felt heavier than the last, the fear coiling around her like serpents, squeezing tighter with every heartbeat. She glanced back at her children, their faces ghostly pale in the fading light, and felt another wave of panic. "Mommy!" Ethan called, breaking the silence. "Don't leave us. I'm right here." She called back, forcing a calm she didn't feel. She needed to see. She needed to know what was making that noise. The dark yawned around her, swallowing the thin light. It felt alive, a living entity filled with secrets best left buried. Just as she reached the bottom of the stairs, a faint sound broke the stillness. Whispers, indistinguishable yet suffocating in their urgency. She strained to listen, blood rushing in her ears. The whispers grew stronger, erupting into chaos around her as if the very walls were trying to communicate, revealing tales of sorrow and rage, of children lost and promises broken. This was not just her home, this was a battleground of memories. Racing back up the stairs, she felt a chill lick at her heels, a dark, dreadful presence climbing out of the abyss. Glancing back toward the basement, the whispers transformed into laughter, high-pitched, gleeful, sinister. "Mommy!" A voice echoed through the door. It was not her children's. "Leave them alone." She screamed back, slamming the door shut with every ounce of strength she had. But something slammed against the door from the other side hard enough to send tremors through her body. "Open up, Mommy." That voice came again, but it was distorted, a mockery of her children's tones. "No!" she cried. The scrambling dread clawed at her insides, the frantic rhythm of her pulse screaming at her to escape. "Lisa, the children." Mr. Thompson's voice drifted to her, trembling, hanging heavy between them. "We have to," but another crash stopped him. The door shuddered violently, reverberating through the living room. Shadows twisted around her, elongating and reaching, drawing close as Lisa realized she might have sealed them in with whatever was lurking on the other side. "Mommy!" The basement door splintered, and her heart dropped. A sickening realization hit her, they weren't safe anymore. She turned to the small window, now the only potential escape. "We have to go. Now." But as she sprinted for the window, she heard the basement door crash wide open. "Mommy!" Her breath caught as she turned back, goosebumps rising on her arms. Whatever had been down there was now free. Would the monster return for its next victim? Or had it already taken control of her home? The sound was unmistakable. A soft rustling, then silence. Lisa's eyes darted to the shattered basement door, her heart thudding like a drumbeat of impending doom. The joy of witnessing the daylight through the window felt distant, perhaps unreachable. "Mommy!" Julie's quiver sliced through her panic, but there was something else now, something layered beneath her daughter's plea. The voice had shifted, it was almost playful, almost sinister. "Not now," Lisa whispered, moving to block her children's view. She pressed her back against the door, desperate to buy some time. Her fingers twitched around the doorknob, but her resolve faltered. The thought of her children's safety propelled her, yet fear clawed at her throat like a noose. "Stay quiet," she urged, forcing the command through quivering lips. She sensed Mr. Thompson at her side, but their collective breaths formed a thick curtain of dread between them. Then, an otherworldly giggle echoed through the room. It coiled around her like smoke, curling into her ears. The laughter was layered with that hideous familiarity, the sickly sweet echo of her children, yet warped as if it had been processed through a dimensional filter of horrors. "Open the door, Mommy," it sang, seductive and mocking. "Please." She pressed her palms against the wood, feeling its pulse, her heart joined in the rhythm of chaotic desperation. She had to act. "Mr. Thompson, we can't stay here," she managed to say, her voice a whisper. He nodded, his gaze fixed on the door, but uncertainty clouded his features. Suddenly, the air turned icy, heavy with an unseen pressure. The giggles morphed into shrieks, an unsettling harmony of many voices converging into one chorus. It pierced through Lisa, burrowing into her mind, filling her thoughts with darkness. "Mommy, come play," it chanted, the taunts echoing with a familiarity that froze her veins. She clutched at her children, who huddled close, confused fear lacing their innocent eyes, and then the whispers returned, insistent now, easier to decipher. "Lisa, come and find us." "No." She slammed her fist against the door, adrenaline blending with madness. What had she let free? The energy thrumming in the air felt alive, and it was hungry. "I don't care if you're in there, I want to let you take them," she screamed, fighting against the tide of terror washing over her. But deep inside, she felt the tremors of doubt. It wasn't just noise, they knew her. It was as if they could sense weakness, ready to exploit it. "Mommy." Ethan's voice broke through, filled with desperation. "We want to go home." Tears stung Lisa's eyes, her children had to escape. There had to be a way. She turned towards the window, panic strumming a symphony of disbelief in her mind. Grabbing the window frame, she tried to yank it open, but it resisted. "Help me," she pleaded to Mr. Thompson, her voice rising above the chaos. He rushed forward, battering against the stubborn window. The laughter grew louder, vibrant and agitated, as something thudded against the door, shaking the entire frame. It felt as if the house itself was echoing in pain, in a dance of fear and malice. Then, in a flash of instinct, Lisa forged a resolution. "On 3, we jump," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Ready?" She counted down, struggling to keep her focus. 3, 2. As her heart pounded like a war drum, a blast of cold air stung her face, and the screams intensified to a fever pitch behind her. "Mommy, Mommy." The voices howled, yearning and mocking in unison. "Now." With all her strength, she shoved the window open, the sound of breaking glass shattering the air like a grenade. But before she could leap through, a shadow darted past, slithering silently between them, momentarily obscuring her view of the world outside. "I'm coming for you." The laughter rang through the remnants of daylight. Time slowed as she turned to the darkness closing in, the fear echoing in her chest. She could feel an icy grip, something more, something deeper. Had they truly escaped? Or, perhaps, had something worse already found its way into her home? Run. The future hung heavy in the air, like unspoken promises dangling precariously on the edge of darkness. The moment the window shattered, Lisa didn't hesitate. The adrenaline coursed through her, overriding the terror that threatened to consume her. "Go," she urged, shoving Ethan out first, a wild fear propelling him into the yard. Julie followed, a little slower, casting one last frightened glance at the door, as if she could summon their father from beyond it. But Lisa didn't look back. she couldn't eat at the grass was cool beneath her feet as she squeezed through the jagged opening, heart racing, the world outside feeling unreal. She took a moment to breathe, the scent of damp earth mingling with the fading sunlight. But there was no time to savor it, the manic laughter echoed still, bouncing after them like a twisted symphony. "Mommy!" Julie's small voice quivered as she stumbled into a patch of weeds. Lisa grasped her arm, pulling her closer, scanning their surroundings for Mr. Thompson. Panic clawed at her throat when she didn't see him. "Where's Mr. Thompson?" she gasped. "He's still inside," Ethan shouted, pointing at the darkened window ominously lit by the flickering glow of orange light. Shadows danced within, like souls trapped in a silent scream. Just then, a loud thud echoed from the basement, rattling the ground beneath them. The door splintered, a sickly cut of darkness spilling out, alive and restless. Something was emerging, tentatively at first, as if testing the air for its next victim. "Run!" Lisa screeched, steering them away from the house. They darted toward the tree-line at the edge of their yard, branches whipping against their skin like a warning. They had to reach the road, they had to get away, life depended on it. Ethan stumbled, falling to his knees. "I can't!" he cried, the thoroughness of his fear paralyzing him. She turned back, urgency flooding her veins. "Get up! Please!" She pulled at him, a moment of weakness barely stirring before the laughter echoed again, louder than before, teasing from afar. It was close now, too close. "Here, here!" Julie yelled, panic overtaking her. She pointed down a narrow path that curved away from the house, a place Lisa had never explored. "Trust me," Julie pleaded, her eyes reflecting the fear mirrored in Lisa's heart. Without another option, Lisa dragged Ethan to his feet and they fled down the path, swallowed by encroaching shadows. A thick silence fell, muffling the distance between them and the horrors they fled. The oppressive absence of laughter felt even more terrifying, amplifying the thrum of their hearts, which raced against the stillness. They broke through the trees and entered a small clearing. The moon hung low, casting ghostly beams across a forgotten playground, swinging chains creaking eerily in the scoffing breeze. The sight was unsettling, an innocent facade crumbling beneath a sinister veil. "Look!" Julie pointed to a slide, its surface wrinkled with age, as if it bore witness to the past. She wanted to turn away, to leave the haunted echoes behind, but something tugged at her curiosity. "Do you hear that?" Lisa whispered, a thrumming pulse deep within the clearing, subtle but ominous. "What?" Ethan asked, his wide eyes darting nervously. "I don't." Lisa tried to explain, but then it came clearer. Soft, melodic whispers floated on the wind, calling them. "Come play, come find us." The sweet cadence terrified her. It was the same taunting chorus, now mingled with drumming heartbeats. "Mommy!" They huddled closer, bracing against the cold tendrils of dread winding around them. The whispers urged them, pulling at the threads of their sanity. "I don't want to stay here." Ethan's voice trembled as he clung to Lisa's leg. "We can't," she replied firmly, dragging them deeper into the clearing, seeking escape, knowing they had no choice. "We need to find help." But the path behind them was gone, darkness swirled like a living entity, swallowing any trace of the house. As they moved, the whispers crescendoed into an unholy shriek. "You shouldn't have left then." The ground shuddered beneath them, vibrating with an energy that felt alive, a sudden realization dawning. "Mommy, Mommy!" Julie cried as the darkness surged forward, swirling around them like a storm. Something was coming. And whatever it was terrifyingly hungry. What would it take to escape now? The light of the day was barely a memory, dissolved in fear. Would they even find a way out before the darkness consumed them? The ground trembled again, sending ripples of panic through Lisa's body. She felt the vibrations in her bones, like a warning pulse urging her to run faster. "We need to move," she yelled, tearing her gaze from the encroaching darkness. The whispers swirled around them, draping the clearing in an eerie cloak that seemed to pull at her feet, urging her to stay just a moment longer. "Where do we go?" Ethan stammered, fear turning his face pale. "Anywhere but here," Lisa urged, gripping Julie's arm tightly, searching the mists for an escape route. As if the shadows had a mind of their own, they shifted and writhed, coiling around the children, tightening their grip. Julie's eyes were wide, shimmering with tears. "I can't see anything." The wind howled, carrying with it a cacophony of whispers, mingling with the laughter they had heard before. It felt as if every tree, every pile of rusted metal from the playground, was watching them. The slide loomed like a monstrous mouth, gaping wide, ready to swallow them whole. "Look for a way out," Lisa commanded. They scanned the perimeter of the clearing, shadows dancing dangerously close. There had to be something, some path they had missed. Ethan spotted an old, crooked fence at the edge of the playground, partially hidden by overgrown weeds. "There." He pointed, hope flickering in his eyes. "Let us go." Lisa responded, but as they stepped toward it, the darkness surged again, a wave of despair threatening to drown them in its depths. The whispers reached a fever pitch. "Stay, play with us." The sound wrapped around Lisa's mind, echoing memories of childhood laughter that twisted into something grotesque. "No!" Lisa screamed, clenching her fists. She forced herself to move, dragging her siblings toward the fence. "Not now." The roar of distant laughter surrounded them, the mocking tones encouraging the darkness. As they neared the fence, the ground heaved up beneath their feet, a soft yet fierce pulse ratcheting up the fear. A gnarled tree, twisted and blackened, loomed in their path like a bridge to perdition. Its roots snaked out into the trembling earth, as if trying to reclaim the children, and Lisa could almost hear its sinister whispers promising safety in return for their freedom. "Get up!" she yelled to Ethan, who had fallen again, error painting his features. She couldn't let him succumb to the darkness, not now. With one last surge of determination, the three of them scrambled toward the fence, pushing through the dense weeds that clawed at them like fingers. And then the whispers fell into an eerie, expectant silence. "Climb." Lisa pulled Ethan up. They scaled the fence, nails scraping against splintered wood as they hoisted Julie over. Just as they cleared the last slat, the ground erupted again, this time, with a high-pitched shriek that pierced through the night. "No! Don't leave!" it cried, followed by a violent rustling that shook the clearing. Heart-pounding, they landed on the other side, stumbling forward into a thick, foggy haze. The sounds of the laughter dissipated, but the chill in the air clung to them, suffocating in its intensity. What was that?" Ethan stammered, his voice trembling. "I don't know," Lisa admitted, taking a deep breath, trying to shake off the dread. She looked around, but the path ahead was obscured, shrouded in swirling mist. "We have to keep moving." As they pressed on, the feeling that they were being watched returned, that same creeping sensation from before. "Lisa?" Julie's voice was a whisper, almost lost in the fog. What if it follows us?" Lisa hesitated. The thought curled around her, tightening like a vice. It won't. "We're safe now." But even as she said it, a low growl echoed behind them, a predatory rumble that promised the darkness was far from finished. "Just keep moving," she instructed, heart racing. The mist thickened, cloaking them, and in its depths, sinister streaks of shadow flickered, waiting for the chance to pounce. How far could they run? Would the darkness ever let them go? And was safety merely an illusion slipping further away? The fight was far from over, and Lisa could feel it. Something loomed at the edge of the fog, something dark and waiting. What awaited them in the depths of that mist? Would they be ready for whatever was coming next? The cold wrapped around them like a vice. Lisa strained her ears against the endless silence, breathing heavily, her heart thundering in her chest. The growl echoed again, closer this time, a low warning that sent fresh spikes of dread coursing through her. "Keep moving," she urged, a tremor in her voice. The mist seemed alive, swirling and curling like a living thing trying to choke them. Ethan stumbled, nearly losing his footing, and she reached back to steady him. "Where were we even going?" he gasped, the panic evident in his wide eyes. "Anywhere," Lisa snapped, frustration pouring from her. "Just away from here." Each word came out clipped, urgent, but doubt clawed at her insides. Would they ever find a way out, or would they just run until they collapsed in the darkness? Julie, clutching tightly at her sister's sleeve, stared wide-eyed into the fog. "What if it finds us?" she whispered, her voice quaking. The ground beneath them rippled again, like a tightened wire ready to snap. Lisa's breath caught in her throat. "It won't. We'll be fine." But even as she spoke, the shadows at the edge of the clearing seemed to pulse, closing in like a predator stalking its prey. The chill intensified, and a soft, relentless whisper grazed her ears, coaxing and confusing. "Stay, play with us, don't leave." The wind carried it on a wave of despair that made Lisa's skin crawl. Her resolve wavered, the darkness beckoning with sinister promises. "Let us just keep going," she yelled, desperate to erase the seductive call of those whispers. They pressed forward, moving through the thickening fog, feeling the pressure of unseen eyes on their backs. "Lisa! Look!" Ethan exclaimed suddenly, pointing ahead. From within the fog, a shape materialized, an old, decrepit building, standing alone against the oppressive mist. It had once been a part of the playground, now a ghost of its former self. Was it safe? Or another trap? "Do we go in?" Julie asked, her voice barely above a whisper as dread flickered in her eyes. "We have to," Lisa decided, unable to shake the feeling that outside was worse than whatever lurked within. It might be safe. As they approached, the door creaked open, as if inviting them in. Shadows danced across the walls, and the smell of damp wood and decay wafted out, welcoming them with a terrible familiarity. "After you," Lisa urged, her voice strained. She pushed hers and her siblings' fear down, forcing them inside as they entered the musty darkness. The door slammed shut behind them with a heavy thud, sealing them in. Inside, the atmosphere felt thick, heavy with memories and despair. Old swings hung limply from the ceilings, the chains rusted and creaking eerily. A faded mural of cheerful children laughed from the walls, now cracked and peeling, mocking their presence. "I don't like this," Julie murmured, pulling closer to her sister, eyes darting to the shadows. "Stay close," Lisa ordered, her pulse racing again. She glanced back toward the door. The growl now echoed from within the building too, vibrating through the walls, a sound that chilled her bones. And then she noticed it, a flicker of movement in the corner of her eye. Just outside a broken window, a shadowy figure seemed to watch them, its grotesque features melding in and out of the mist. They weren't alone anymore. "Run!" Lisa shouted, pulling her siblings toward what seemed like a hallway, their feet pounding against the warped floorboards. But the growling drew nearer, hungry and relentless. How would they escape this time? The darkness was patient, and the predator was closing in. Suddenly a wall loomed straight ahead, blocking their escape with no visible way around. Heart racing, Lisa turned back toward the shadow, its eyes glinting with insatiable curiosity. What would it want from them? Did they truly have nowhere to go? As the walls closed around them, hope slipped through Lisa's fingers like sand, and despair wrapped its fingers tighter around her heart. With nowhere left to run, Lisa braced herself for the unimaginable. What lay ahead in the darkness? Would the shadows reveal their nightmare? Lisa's breath quickened as she felt the wall loom around her like a coffin. Panic surged through her veins, and she pressed her back against the cold, hard surface, heart pounding in her ears. The growl morphed into a deep rumble, reverberating through her bones. Ethan and Julie remained pressed against her, their fear palpable in the cramped space. "What do we do?" Ethan dared to whisper. His voice trembled, uncertainty mixing with dread. Lisa didn't have an answer. She glanced at the broken doorway behind them, the fog swirling beyond, concealing who or what was hunting them. But there would be no escape through the mist. It would swallow them whole. Stay calm. We'll find another way. Lisa strained to sound hopeful, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her. She scanned the dimly lit hallway that stretched before them, a series of doors within sight, a labyrinth of the unknown. Maybe we should go in there? Julie pointed to a door slightly ajar. The air beyond rippled with an unsettling energy. No. Lisa shot back, panic not allowing any more ideas. And then the growl erupted again, louder, more ferocious, echoing off the walls until it seemed to surround them, closing in like a noose. Run! She shouted, and before she could second-guess herself, they sprinted toward the nearest door, the wood creaking as if warning them to turn back. Inside, the room was vast and empty, filled with dust motes that danced in a beam of pale light filtering through a grimy window. Shadows crawled along the walls, making Lisa believe they had company. Is it gone? Ethan panted, peering over his shoulder. I don't think so. Lisa hissed, feeling dizzy with disorientation. But as her eyes adjusted, she noticed something unsettling: a series of photographs pinned to the walls. They depicted children playing, their faces smiling yet eerily lifeless. The longer she looked, the more the images twisted, making her feel as though they were watching her. What are these? Julie muttered, stepping back as if the pictures were alive. Just photos, old ones, Lisa said, though her heart raced, and a chill wrapped around her spine. Someone had been here. Someone who had watched. And then she saw it. One photo depicted a girl that looked just like her. The same disheveled hair, the same wide eyes. A shadow of unease crept over her skin. She stepped back, bumping into Ethan, who stood frozen, a look of horror on his face. Is that you? He whispered, though every ounce of her wanted to deny it. Then, without warning, the door slammed shut behind them. The sound ringing in the silent room felt like a death knell. Let us out! Lisa screamed, pounding her fists against the door, panic now clawing at her throat. It wouldn't budge. The growl returned, deep and guttural, vibrating through the wooden frame. It's getting closer, Julie whimpered, her voice breaking. Lisa's mind raced. They had to find a way to escape, to unlock this grim fate tightening around them. But as she looked around, the walls seemed to close in, the photos morphing like living things, and she realized they might not just be trapped in the building. They might be trapped in a nightmare woven by those who had come before. Terror crashed down like a wave, and Lisa felt her legs tremble beneath her. A flicker of movement caught her eye as the photos grimaced and transformed in the dim light. Look! Ethan pointed at another photograph. A figure loomed in the back, a dark shape against the children's bright faces. Is that? Lisa started but was cut off by the shadow in the photo moving. With a heart-wrenching lurch, she drew closer. The figure was smiling, eyes glinting with menace. It turned its head, eyes locking onto Lisa's, and as it did, the growl crescendoed. Run! She screamed again, terror lending her strength as she ripped away from the wall. But where? Every footstep felt like it would be their last. As they barreled toward the exit, Lisa's horrified scream echoed through the eons of the suffocating dark, drowning in the realization, they de-stepped into a twisted game, and the players were more dangerous than they could imagine. What if the only way out was to confront the darkness that awaited them? The door rattled violently, a low moan escaping from the frame as the growl morphed into something human-like, slithering through the air. Lisa hammered her fists on the wood, but it mocked her, sturdy and unyielding. What the hell is it? She shouted, panic exploding in her chest. We can't stay here. Ethan grabbed her arm, his fingers trembling against her skin. She shot him an incredulous look, knowing they had no better option than this decaying room. We need to think, he insisted, but his voice faltered under the weight of dread. Julie's wide eyes darted between the photographs, fear distorting her features. Do you think they went through this? She stammered, pointing at the images lining the walls. What if they didn't make it out? Lisa's heart dropped as she swallowed hard, her throat dry. We can't end up like them. The photos seemed to close in, their painted-on grins twisting into smirks, eyes shimmering with knowledge. The room felt smaller, claustrophobic. She turned away from the taunting faces, trying desperately to shake the oppressive weight of despair. Focus. She snapped, forcing her voice to stay steady. We need a plan. A scraping sound came from the door. A pause, then the heavy thud of something large colliding with it. Dust flaked from the walls like brittle skin. It's coming. Ethan screamed, his words laced with panic. Adrenaline spurred Lisa forward. There. She pointed to a corner where the shadows swallowed the floor. We can hide there. The three of them rushed toward the shadows, the floorboards groaning under their weight. They crouched low, breathing heavy and fast, the growing noise merging with the frantic beat of their hearts. The smell of dampness and decay assaulted their senses. Lisa whispered, pressing her hand over her mouth. The door slammed open, forceful and deafening. The hallway beyond was cloaked in darkness, but the shape that emerged was unmistakable. A figure cloaked in a thick fog, shifting and flowing like smoke. It stood still for a moment, almost as if it was sensing their fear. I can't breathe, Ethan gasped, his panicked breaths making it harder for Lisa to concentrate. She placed a hand on his arm and squeezed, trying to anchor him. Stay quiet, she hissed again. It's just standing there. But as if summoned by her words, the figure turned, shoulders hunched, its face obscured by shadows. It began to glide silently toward them, the floorboards beneath it seemingly untouched. I can't take it. Julie whimpered, her eyes brimming with tears. We have to do something. Just wait, Lisa urged, watching the shadowy form inch closer. It paused before the doorway, head cocked to the side, as if listening for them. Suddenly, it lunged, a quick movement that shattered the silence. The three of them instinctively recoiled, and Lisa felt her heart leap into her throat. She glanced at the door and then back at the figure, frozen in astonishment. A whisper, low and chilling, slithered through the air. You can't hide from the truth, the voice echoed in her mind, sending chills down her spine. The old photographs, the eerie smiles, they were all connected. Each child trapped in the memories, held captive not by place, but by knowledge. Lisa! Ethan cried, pulling her closer to him as dread pooled in the pit of her stomach. Do you see the eyes? Julie gasped, her voice breaking. They can see us. We need to please, we have to shut up. Lisa snapped, but her words were laced with fear. The figure lunged again, teeth glinting in a sinister smile, and Lisa felt the world tilt beneath her. A sharp scream broke from her lips as shadows blurred the edges of her vision, a black canvas closing in. In that moment, a fleeting thought struck her. What if confronting the darkness meant unearthing the secrets they were so desperately trying to escape? But could they survive? As darkness consumed her, whispers erupted in her mind. Was this the truth they were meant to face, or merely a prelude to something worse? And as the shadows wrapped around her, one question clawed at her consciousness: who was truly hunting them? Lisa's heart thundered in her chest, a drumbeats of dread echoing through the dim room they had stumbled into. She ached to shield her kiddos, to protect their innocent minds from the horrors lurking just beyond the veil of reality. The shadows twirled around them, whispering ancient secrets, tugging at something deep within her, a hunger for truth, a desire to break free from the cycle of fear gripping their lives. The shadow figure exploded into motion once more, darting toward them, eyes glowing with primordial intensity. You can't hide from the truth, it hissed, and Lisa felt that biting truth tugging at her sanity. In that split second, instinct kicked in. They were out of options, fight or flight, it was now or never. Ethan! Julie! She yelled, breaking the spell of paralyzing fear. We have to confront it. Follow my lead. With that, she plunged deeper into the shadows, her hands outstretched for the children. As they catapulted forward, Lisa's mind raced. What did it mean to confront the truth? What dark history connected their family to those faded photographs pinned around the room? But there was no time for answers, only action. The air felt electric as they faced the lurking figure, its form coiling and flickering like a flame refusing to be snuffed out. "Who are you?" Lisa shouted, her voice cracking under the weight of courage. "What do you want?" The figure drew closer, its voice wrapping around them like a noose. "I want what you've kept hidden. The truth has a way of surfacing." The darkness swirled, its tendrils caressing her skin, and fear began to twist into something else: defiance. "No!" Lisa shouted again, echoing through the room filled with memories. "You can't have us. Whatever this is, this game you're playing ends here." She glanced back at Ethan and Julie, their faces pale yet determined, a spark igniting within their fearful depths. As the shadow lunged, Lisa's determination fueled a burst of energy. Something primal within her snapped into focus. They were not its prey. They were survivors. "We stand together," she called out fiercely, and together they took a step forward, a unified front against the chaos demanding to swallow them whole. In that moment, the shadows shuddered, caught off guard. The figure seemed to flicker, revealing glimpses of past children, lost souls who dared not confront their truth. Join us, they echoed, their voices a haunting melody dragging at Lisa's heartstrings. "No!" she screamed again, louder this time. "We're not joining anyone. We're leaving." The air crackled with newfound energy, like electricity after a storm. Suddenly, the photographs shimmered, moments frozen in time illuminating the dark. Each child's face shifted, showed glimpses of happiness before fading into despair. But Lisa stood firm. "Together," she urged, clutching her kids closer. "Let us rewrite this story." With a raw yell, she propelled forward, forcing the shadows back with the shimmering wind of resilience. The room shuddered, the haunting growls receding as the darkness began to fray, splitting like a torn tapestry, revealing a path bathed in golden light. "Go!" Lisa shouted. Ethan and Julie dashed ahead, their feet pounding against the wooden floor, driven by the glow taunting them. Lisa followed, heart racing, tears blurring her vision as she hurtled into the light. As the shadows receded, whispers of laughter breathed along with them, a promise of release. The doorway widened, a vivid burst of dawn spilling forth as the last remnants of darkness melted away. They raced toward the light, laughter audible behind as it crumbled away, the echoes growing distant, powerless against their unity. Once outside, they stumbled into the fresh air, bathed in sunlight that warmed their skin. The house stood behind them, the shadows now but a memory. They had escaped, something had shifted. Together, they had faced their fears and won. Julie looked up at Lisa, her eyes shining. "Are we safe now, Mommy?" "Yeah," Lisa whispered, hugging her tight. "We're free." "Will it come back?" Ethan asked, fear creeping back into his voice. "No. Honey," she reassured, heart swelling with love. "It's time we live freely, without fear, knowing that we are stronger when we stand together." So there, in the embrace of their suburban haven, they stood united against the unforgiving memories of their past, ready to write new stories. With the sun rising brightly above them, Lisa felt the warmth seep into their souls, a promise of unyielding strength for the future, and with it, the hope that they wouldn't just survive, they would thrive. Lisa turned to her children, hearts full, and asked, "What do you want to do now?" "Play," they chimed, laughter spilling into the air like melodies of freedom, echoing far beyond the horrors left behind. It was the first time in ages that the sound felt pure, unsullied by the weight of shadows. As they ventured deeper into the sunlit day, Lisa held on to that warmth, knowing that together, they could face anything. And as the lingering whispers faded into silence, one thought resonated within her mind: freedom tasted sweeter when earned through courage far stronger than any darkness could ever be. To all of you watching this journey unfold, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Hit that like button now, and feed the algorithm to keep these stories alive. Flood the comments section with your reactions, your thoughts about the ending. What do you think will happen next? Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means everything.